Hi, Linda Galashaw here in the well-adorned home of Joe and Jacqueline Jones. How are you?
Oh, very well, thank you. Welcome.
Again, we're working on community. We're trying to find out the many secrets to building a strong community, putting out positive vibes, airs, and passing the baton. How do we do it? How do we save community? How do we save our children? Those are the questions. Those are the things we'll be discussing. Now, let's just start with your former titles. You are a former chief of staff for the Patterson Public Schools District.
Yes, I am a former Chief of Staff to State District Superintendent, Patterson Public Schools. I retired in 2016.
Whoa.
I've been with the district for 43 years at that particular time, 43 years. Many people think that I've always been in the superintendent's office or down at central office, but no. I actually started teaching in 1973. I'm a business education teacher, and I taught at John F. Kennedy High School,
Wow.
home of the Knights.
What high school did you graduate from?
I was going to say, I'm a graduate from Eastside High School, home of the Mighty Ghosts, and
There we go.
when I started teaching, I started at John F. Kennedy High School. They were so welcoming. They were so embracing. High school was not my goal at that particular time. My goal was to teach on the junior college level. But once I started working with the students at the high school, I loved it, and I never left. And so that was in 1973, and I was in the classroom until about, I would say 85, but maybe a few years beyond that. So as a business ed teacher, I did other jobs while I was at Kennedy High School. While at Kennedy High School, as I said, I was a business education teacher. From that position, I became director of attendance.
Okay.
If you didn't come through the business or the business department, you got to know me as the director of attendance. If you weren't coming to school, if you were absent 5 days, 10, 15, 20 days plus, you had a visit in my office with your parents. So director of attendance. I did run the Patterson Public Schools summer school program for a number of years.
Yes.
And I found that very gratifying because it gave me an opportunity to meet students from all over the district, not just John F. Kennedy High School students. So if you lived in Patterson and needed to attend a summer school program, you were able to come to the Patterson Public School program. So I got to meet kids from Patterson Catholic, vocational, Wayne Tech Vocational High School, and schools such as that. And so we serviced about 2,000 kids in the summer school program.
That's large.
And
That's
then I
large.
became chair for the business department. I started there as a business teacher. There was an opportunity that I could become the department chair, and I love doing that as well.
You got to intermingle a lot with parents in different situations. How did you find that? Was that very challenging?
I'm going to say it was very challenging to a degree. Dealing with students, dealing with parents as a classroom teacher, that came very natural to me. I didn't have a problem dealing with parents as a classroom teacher. But as I began to take other administrative roles, those roles are different, and your relationship and your interaction is a little different with parents. Particularly when I dealt with parents and the students' attendance. For a period of time, I conducted what they used to call attendance hearings. And so if kids were out of school for more than 21 days, and if they were over the age of 16, we'd have a meeting where a decision would have to be made to perhaps recommend the student to attend a different kind of program. That I found very challenging, and even those who worked with me realized it was a challenge for me.
I know that's something that the current superintendent of schools is working on a special program for kids with high absentees. And it is most challenging to even contact them at their homes or to get their parents involved. Were you very instrumental in assisting the superintendent with information or development of new programs?
Oh, definitely with information. My role as I started out with the title executive assistant, and as the years progressed, let me just first say that I had an opportunity to stay in the superintendent's office. Once I arrived, I think it was in 1997, I worked under 5 different superintendent administrations. And so with each of them, my role was similar. And for each of them, I helped them with the overall operations of the office, which also included written correspondences, meeting with parents, meeting with administrators in behalf of the superintendent, meeting with board members, meeting with parents, if I didn't say that already. And so just a wide range. I was in charge of overseeing the school board elections each year, so I would meet with prospective board members, when it was appropriate during that time. Just a range of things. What were you going to say? As the chief of staff, executive assistant, I would represent the superintendent in many of the county meetings with superintendents countywide, assisting the superintendent with state presentations to the State Board of Education as well as county executives. And so it's a wide range of experiences and tasks that I had that I enjoyed. I like people. I am a people person, and I have to tell you that's still happening now, believe it or not. I'm still getting calls, about different concerns that parents may have, knowing what my role was. They have not disconnected me from the district. And fortunately, when I left, I still had a good relationship with the staff. With administrators, and so I still have the ability to reach out when I have to, when I want to, when there is a need to assist a parent. But I keep my distance, but I try to give guidance. Most certainly, try to give guidance.
Well, that is most appreciated.
Yeah. And I'm just happy that they feel comfortable enough that they want to talk to me. Well,
what are you doing now? Most of your hours, where do they go? I know you're retired, but we all find something to do during retirement.
Well, I will tell you, retirement is not anything I had ever planned to do. That was not one of my goals. It's just that life presented me with a situation. I felt like it was best for me. My father became ill, and et cetera, et cetera. I wanted to spend more time with him. And assist him for all that he had given me and done for me. I felt like that was the least I could do, and I was blessed that I had more than enough years, and I was over the age where I could, and so I did. But anyway, I did think about what would be some of the things I would like to do if ever I retired, and it would involve working with senior citizens.
Wonderful.
Working with senior citizens. And so through my church, there are a number of roles I have taken on that helps me to intermingle with them on a regular basis.
That
and
is
so
wonderful.
I get joy out of that. I do.
I'm gonna trip you up and go back to your retiring at the school. What was that nice little thing you did at the end, and donating your hours back to the staff? That was such a big thing. It just dwindled through high school, through grammar school. The teachers were so proud. I went to a school board meeting, and you were mentioned, and some people were looking for you. They thought they had contacted you to come to the meeting, but you weren't there. And they just wanted to show their appreciation for the hours that you dedicated back. How did that go?
Well, I will first say this. If I were to give one piece of advice to young people, I went to work. If I was really sick, of course I took off. But just to take off work, I just never got into that practice. Over the years you hear people say, "Oh, I took off on Monday because it was my birthday," or they're planning on taking off because it's their birthday, or "I'm taking off because I haven't taken any time off so far this year." I never worked like that. The pattern and the example that I saw through my father, who was the working parent. My father went to work every day. That's what he showed me. He showed me integrity. He showed me character. He showed me honesty. And so it's part of my DNA. I went to work. And as a result, I didn't take off work if I wasn't sick. If I was sick and I needed it, and there have been a couple of instances I've had to take off a block of time, and thank God I had the days at the time. But in all of the years that I had put into the district, I had a considerable amount of time at the end. And I was working, once I went down to the Board of Ed, I was working with a young lady. I don't know if I'm allowed to say her name. She's no longer with us. She was a secretary in the superintendent's office suite. And she had become very ill. She was dying of cancer. And she had used up all of her days. And I had gone to Human Resources to see if I could take some of my days and give to her so that she would have more time. And at that time, they told me that was not allowed for legal reasons. And I just never forgot that. I just felt whatever they could do, I wanted to do that for her. As I began to process my retirement paperwork, I heard of another situation of a young lady who had a very severe accident at home. And when I told the department, when they told me how many days I had, I was turning them back in. By that time, they had developed a program that will enable those who wanted to donate some of their sick days back into the bank. You could do it. And so I did that in her behalf. And I just felt like that's the least I could do. If I didn't need them because I was sick, I felt I was blessed. And so if I could bless someone else in that way, that's what I wanted to do.
And how many hours were they, approximately?
It went by days. And I know there were over 300 and some odd days. But we're talking 43 years, so,
And you could have been paid out for those days?
I'm sure there's a way you can do it. I'm sure there's a way. But again, because I didn't really need them myself, I felt I was blessed. And when I needed the time, because I through my 43 years, I did have 2 major surgeries. And so when I needed the time, I had the time, because I hadn't wasted time. So
it's a beautiful act. It will never.
But I didn't realize it was being talked about to that extent.
That's a lot of time, a lot of days, expensive days. You were a high-ranking officer there.
Well, anyway.
Well, let's get to Mr. Jones, Joe Jones, the famous Joe Jones. I mean, how many hats can one person wear? I know you also retired as a commissioner of the Passaic County Social Services Board member, sorry.
I'll start out on my job. I worked for Passaic County Workforce, and I was there for 32 years. It started out as CETA, and during my CETA years, I was just a counselor. As time went on, my title changed to Community Resource Counselor, because I was out to many, many meetings, again, like her, with her
Board meetings?
With the superintendent, my director, I would go to meetings on their behalf.
Okay.
And by going out to all these different meetings, actually, let me go back a step too. I have worked over 50 years because I've worked at Oxford University Press in computers. I worked at the unemployment office.
Yes.
I worked as a social worker with St. Joe's. So I've done a lot of work in my years, but I retired from Passaic County workforce. Again, like my wife, I worked a lot with people. That was always my goal, to help people.
Yes. And at the same time, you were doing things in the community.
In the community, yes. How I became a commissioner at the Board of Social Services, which is what you asked me.
Could we hold it? I hate to cut like that, but
You actually became a commissioner.
okay. Go.
Through your many functions and positions, Mr. Jones, how did you escalate so in at the Board of Social Services?
Well, how that became about, on my job, I work with a lot of people on welfare. And I would go to social services or wherever they had to go sometime to help them out, because this particular case at social services, the young lady I was helping, she didn't want to go see her caseworker by herself because her caseworker was very nasty to her. She said every time she comes there, and she felt if she went today by herself, she will probably smack the caseworker. So I didn't want to see something like that happen. So I went with her. And when we got there, the caseworker came to the door and she said to the young lady, "Well, who is this?" And the young lady said to her, "This is my counselor." And she said to me, "Well, you stand in the hall." I said, "Excuse me?" She said, "You have to stand in the hall." So I said to the young lady, I said, "Come with me." So she said, the girl said to me, it's mean to say that part, but the girl said to me, "She has to see me." I said, "No, she'll see you in a minute." I knew what to do. So I took the young lady and I went upstairs to the director's office. I knew him.
Fine
And
guy.
I had them bring the young lady that told me to stand in the hallway upstairs. And when they brought her upstairs, they had her apologize to me, excuse me. Had her apologize to me, but I felt that was terrible. This girl was treated like that. There's something wrong.
Yes.
So I spoke with a person that's in charge there over the board about coming on the board as a commissioner. And that's how I became a commissioner on the Board of Social Services. But that was just one. I was on many boards.
Yes, you were.
And
Can you mention some of them?
I was on Healthy Mothers,
Healthy mothers, healthy
Healthy
babies.
Babies. I was on Task Force Board.
Yes.
I was on several committees at the Board of Education. I worked with so many different people, and not only in Patterson, but in Passaic.
Yeah.
I went there. I've been on many
Advisement committees?
yes.
What about the Greater Patterson OIC? That's a
Greater
national,
Patterson.
that's a national
I was
one.
on that board for over 30 years. So I'm constantly out. I was constantly out working. You asked my wife who was here watching the house. Actually, we're both gone so much. I'm trying to figure out that myself. Who was home?
Did you have someone live with you at the time, or the babysitter was a regular?
No, it just
Well,
worked out.
we
I guess it
didn't-
just worked out.
We didn't have children and
In
one
the
child. We were married 5
5 years before.
before we had any children. And right now, my daughter, she'll be married 6 years.
Let me see that,
And she
that
doesn't
album.
have children.
Can I have that
I
album,
don't know if
please?
she's gonna like you saying that.
And one of the books. I saw these on your table. I would like to.
All right, so we're gonna cut it.
I was in the same book and he didn't mention me.
She
don't even
owns
remember.
her company.
She's in Kentucky.
No, she's in Maryland.
She
Oh,
owns
Maryland.
a hair salon.
She's from Kentucky.
She's from Kentucky, yeah. I don't know which page is her, I don't know.
Here, this is her page. In case you want.
Okay, so let's
Right
take
here.
this one.
Yeah,
out
you
there.
can do it.
This is her. These are girls modeling for her.
Only this picture?
That's the only one in this book.
Okay, we're gonna have to take a picture. We're gonna have to take a picture
I
of it
have pictures of
because he's not gonna be able to pick it up. It's too small.
Oh, okay, well,
So we'll
don't
just
worry
take a
about
shot
it
of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. Wow. She is actually so beautiful. I love her hair. And so, but you made it work with one child and you got 100% with that, right?
Yes.
Jocelyn. Wow, nice name. How'd you come up with that name?
Jacqueline and Joseph, I mean, need you ask.
Isn't that beautiful? Absolutely beautiful. How old is she now?
She'll be 38, June.
June.
So this was an easy child, I assume. She gave you an easy time.
No problem.
She was a good daughter. She was
No
a good
problems.
daughter. She was a good daughter.
Taping?
She was a good daughter.
And what does she
And
do
her
now?
husband Jermaine.
Oh, yeah.
She
School
teaches
teacher.
elementary school,
So she's
3rd
following her
grade.
parents. She's a giver also.
Wow, she is a giver.
And she did some modeling. Can we say
Yes,
that?
she has.
Well, with the hair, I would say. She won't do
Beautiful
any
shot.
other type of modeling.
That is a beautiful shot. Really nice. And you have a goddaughter in here too, I was told.
Yes.
Wow. And what is her name?
Lakeisha.
Oh, Lakeisha. Okay, beautiful shot.
Right here.
Beautiful shot. And she owns.
She owns the beauty parlor
Her own
in Maryland.
hair salon in Maryland.
See, we're all doing great things. Isn't it wonderful?
She-
It's inspiring.
Yeah, before she opened up her own place, she used to do different stars. She used to go to California and do the stars' makeup and stuff.
Oh, okay. She had really advanced herself in that field.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Listen, when you have these type of godparents, it can happen. I think of the many people that attribute their success to you, Mr. Jones, and the things that you've done in helping people, especially through the CETA program. That was a great program for
Yes.
young people.
Well, you know, the One Stop, Passaic County One Stop, that's the same thing, just the name changes.
Is it the same thing, really?
Well, no.
Because you
It
were.
should be the same thing. I haven't been there in years. I don't know what's being done now or what's changed. But I must say, during the CETA years, there were so many things we did for the people.
I don't know if you were just able to pick out talented children or you just said that to every child that you came in contact with. Because
Every
when I
child's
talk,
important.
that's how they
Everyone
felt.
is
That's what they
important.
said. I see something in you.
Yes.
Mr. Jones would say that. I see something in you. And he would lead me to this and he'd lead me to that. And it became their career choices, some of them.
Oh,
You know,
most
the
of
vision that you had for them. That's quite impressive. I mean, that's a gang of kids. Do they contact you still? Do you?
Oh, yes. Yes. You know, I have a lot of people walk up to me who I really don't remember and tell me what I did for them. Oh, Mr. Jones, you got me to my first job. Or, Mr. Jones, I'm still at the same job you got me. And I don't really remember,
Wow.
you know, but because there is so many.
That is such influence. Now, this one is your retirement.
Yes, when I retired from Passaic County Workforce.
And who did this book for you again?
Well, the book was done by Ricky, the
Yeah.
Picture Man.
Yeah, picture
Oh.
me.
He did my
He
book.
did.
Yeah, he's great. He's
Yes.
another inspiration of
That's my
yours.
nephew. That's my nephew.
Right.
But the program was at the Brownstone, and it was given by
Lamont.
Lamont Bowles.
Oh my goodness.
And Angie.
Great shots.
And,
Angie's
yeah, and
last name.
Angie.
Great shots. Lamont is another big giver.
Yes.
He was the one that actually brought the Easter egg
into
Easter
the
egg
park.
hunt right into Eastside Park, one of the biggest.
Mm.
I mean, it brought participants from New York, Connecticut, all over. That thing, I
And
was
he
a part
gave
of helping.
beautiful gifts to the people.
Oh, he did top things. I mean, unimaginable gifts at that time.
Mm.
Yeah.
And but it took a year's planning, just about. He
Yes.
would start right after, starting to get things in order, contacting people. He was very
Yeah.
hands-on.
And you know Angie, that's a teacher.
Yeah.
Can't think of Angie's last
I
name.
can't think of her last name. Frazier is it
I-
something?
yes, Angie Frazier.
Yeah, she was also part of this. Her and
Oh, you had some good
Lamont.
point people.
Yeah.
Great point people.
Yes.
And great influence, and all was so happy. About how many people attended that?
This affair
Yes.
was over 500, I guess.
I heard that they had to close the door.
Mm.
They
Yeah.
couldn't allow any more people
Yeah.
at the brownstone. You're taking over.
Yeah.
Well, that's appreciation,
Well,
and that's what it
that was
comes.
my second appreciation. My first one was given by
Reverend Teresa Nance
Ah,
back in the day.
Reverend Nance. Yes,
Yeah.
from Plainfield, is it?
No, she's Passaic. Passaic. She was in Passaic. She had a
but
church in
she
Passaic.
did all she
Was
does
she
the
in
write up
Passaic?
for newspapers.
Oh
and
yes,
stuff.
yes, I remember her. Yes, I remember
And
her. now.
anyway, she her affair it was in 1995.
Yeah,
I have a booklet here on that too.
somewhere.
It's right here in the garage.
Oh.
Her affair, it was so packed we had to turn people away.
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, yeah.
So packed.
Well,
At the
that just goes to show
brownstone.
how. But influence again. Let's go with influence. It
And-
seems as though that was raised up in both of you, but especially we can see it a lot in your family because they're community people. Your brother here has gone way abroad and growing.
Well, my brother was a professor at Jersey City University
Okay.
for 47
Over
years.
40 years.
And-
Ben?
and, yes. But he retired because his art took him all over the world. And it was hard teaching and traveling. So he retired to do his artwork
Full-time.
full time.
Well, this is quite a painting here. How
And
mu-
he has, I think, about 3 books out. 3 books. I'm
well
gonna give you
renowned,
copies.
well renowned. And about how much does his paintings go for
They're up in the thousands. I'm gonna tell you that. They're.
when you get this good?
See, I would get them at a discount.
That's your
But
brother,
believe
right?
me, they're very expensive. His paintings. His latest one of the latest ones is in that book on the young man that Trevor Martin.
Yes, true.
That's the cover of his book, I believe, of that book.
Well, we can't get that book right now. Somebody
I'm going to
can-
give you one to take home with you.
Thank you, thank you. Well, influence, we're talking about community. If you were to talk to young people today, what advice would you give them in leadership?
Well, the first thing I have to mention is Marty Barnes. Marty Barnes was a great man for the city of Patterson. And he did an awful lot for the city of Patterson, regardless of what someone else may think. I love Marty Barnes. The reason I loved him, because one of the things, when I was working, anything he had, he would write all of my students free. Never had to pay a dime. Encouragement.
Yes.
Anything at his house that was held at the pool and stuff, free. He did things for the Board of Education. Those things, and I was a present for all of this. Those things were very important to me, and I would do tapings. I have so many tapes that I did for him.
Yes,
for
you were a
Larry
great
Doby.
videographer.
I did for Larry Doby. I've done a lot of tapings following this young man here.
Harold Williams is top dog in the
He
field.
is everywhere.
He really is.
Yeah, but anyway, he was a great person to me. And in politics, I did do a lot with politics, trying to get different people in, and 9 out of 10 times they got in office.
Yes, you had great
They got in
influence.
office.
You had great influence.
So, and once Marty got in as a counselor, he was a councilman at one time.
Yes.
And when I have to start out, my brother was big in politics. He got us involved with Kramer.
And what was your brother's name?
Arthur Jones, Puggy, everybody knew him as.
Okay.
And he got me involved during the time of Kramer. He was a person that loved Kramer and thought he should be mayor. So therefore, we were Republicans at one time, and then
Careful how you say that. You were Republican.
well,
You're okay to mention that? You don't think?
I have no regrets. You know, that's my personal thing.
Right.
I'm a Democrat now. I
Okay.
turned Democrat. My father was a Republican.
Okay.
So, you know, naturally the whole family is Republican.
Usually you follow your parents,
But-
right?
In the 60s, with so much going on, that's when I became a Democrat.
Okay.
Because I saw where the Republicans wasn't doing anything for my people. And I'm saying my people, I'm talking about black people.
Okay.
So therefore I switched. And I worked very hard in politics trying to get things done, and especially in the city of Patterson. Bill Mason, I worked very
Yes.
closely with him. Martha Bowles, very closely with her. So, and these are things that I would try to teach kids. You need to, regardless what politics you go into, who you want to help, do a good job.
Do a good job.
If you're a Republican, do a good job. If you're a Democrat, do a good job. If you're an independent, do a good job. But don't go in it just for money or whatever, something like that. Go in it because you mean it.
Follow your heart.
Yes, follow your heart.
And how did you actually get into community work though? What geared you that way? Was it one of your parents or a
My
mentor?
brother.
Your brother.
My brother Arthur. And from there, I had met Martha Bowles. And that's when I really got serious. You know, we would meet at her house and a gang of people. And it was...
So it was community. It really was
everything
community.
was community, yes.
That's a hard act to follow these days because people are in it for the wrong reasons, as you
Right.
say.
Right.
But young people are looking for their way.
Mhm.
And I think you mentioned one good thing is to get you started is to find a mentor, someone that is well respected in the community, and work with them to get your objectives through.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yes, that's true. I also got to mention my family meetings. My family meets every third Saturday of every month. The nieces, the nephews. Right now we're doing it on Zoom.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But we meet every third Saturday. And we believe in bringing people close together. We pay dues. We give to the community. We give to certain things, people that need money. Right now, we're getting ready to give to St.
Jude.
St. Jude.
That's my favorite. That's on my bank account. I love
Yeah,
it.
We're giving to 5 different organizations. In our last meeting we had last week, it will be.
How long you been doing this?
Oh, I guess about 20 some years now.
I would say 20-something. I don't
Yeah,
remember the
about
number.
20 some
It's
years
a long
now.
time, yeah.
We started Bill Klein.
Klein, his
Yes.
family.
His family did it,
They were doing it.
and they introduced us to it. And we're I guess we're close to 30 years now, and you can imagine if his family was in it, how many years ago that was for them. And I'm telling you, we try to pass that on.
It's important to
every
give back.
family, yes. To tell every family they need to do this. They need to get together because, like my nieces and nephews will say, it's good for them because they're dating.
Okay.
And they could be dating their own cousin and not know it.
And not
So
know
my
it.
niece went away to college, and this young man had asked her out Come to find out, that's her cousin on her father's side.
It can happen.
And it could, yes.
It can happen.
What happened, one of the professors recognized my niece, who was related to the guy who was related to her. And so,
Now, when we talk about the nieces and nephews, in general, has everyone gone to college there, or just about?
no, not everyone, but the majority, I would say the majority goes to college.
A lot of them,
Yeah.
a lot of them. We're seeing the younger generation, they seem to be looking into it even a little bit more than the older generation. As a matter of fact, you just had a nephew that graduated
Two.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, actually, it's more than two.
from colleges. And
Yeah.
so one of the things that the family will do is recognize those accomplishments too. You know, it's important for families to come together so cousins and nieces and aunts and uncles can stay connected, stay together. You know, just keep in touch with family. And so also he talked about his family club, the family club. They discuss different topics. They will discuss political topics, health, finance, you know, so it's a good way to keep the family together.
That's the artist.
Joe, how did you meet your wife?
And I see you there.
I met my wife through her uncle,
What was his name?
Reverend Kuykendall.
Yeah.
We were in college, and he said to me one day, we were coming home, because I always rode with him to and from school, and he said to me, I need to stop by my church. That's before he was a minister. He said, excuse me, he said, I need to stop by my church. I don't remember if he had to do something or he had to go there and tell them something. But my wife was, at that time, she was a teacher. She was downstairs in the
Church cafeteria.
doing something, and he introduced us to each other. And that's how I first met my wife. And I looked at her, and I said, that's going to be my wife someday.
Did he say that to you then?
He
No,
didn't say that to me, no.
So
I
how
believe I did say that to her uncle. Though.
Maybe to the uncle.
So how many years now?
43 years we've
43,
been
it'll
married.
be 44 in August.
And what is the secret? What really keeps that together and steady?
Well,
What establishes a good foundation, if you could
the
counsel?
foundation is learning to walk away. No.
That's
You know,
what Mr.
I have to
We
say,
give each other space.
yeah, and you know what? You have to be able to talk things out.
Yes.
You have to be able to not ever let money get in the way. That's what's wrong with so many marriages. They do things separately, you know, and that's something that's never been done in this house. There's never been a argument over money.
That's right.
There's never. I believe in, for instance, my wife. I believe she should keep a new car. And the reason that is because when she's on that road by herself, you know, I don't want her to be in a car that breaks down.
Did you hear that, Kevin? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I don't want her to be in a car that breaks down.
Right, that's
So
right.
every few years, like she'll say the car she got now, that's her retirement car, but it's not.
That's what we say, yes. That's the
Yeah.
last car I'm gonna buy. It's the
Yeah.
last car.
That really is what I said about this one. I said, this is it.
She said it about the other car too, but it's not. You know, and I wouldn't want it to be,
Right.
because the older you get, if you're still driving, you better make sure it's something
Right.
that
Something
can get you
reliable.
around. Yes.
Well, is there anything you'd like to say to our audience today?
Could I just want to talk to them just for a little
Go
bit.
ahead. Yes.
I know, Miss Jones, you come from a very, very strong family, the Farrars. It seems to me that strong families breed strong families. In your family, the Jones, how is your family able to, like come together? Because talk a little bit about your father, because
Okay. In my family, there were 15 children.
what was your, and try to name them if you can, like what was your father's name?
My father's name was Ormsby Francis Jones. My mother's name was Elise Jones.
Beautiful names.
My father worked for Curtis Wrights. He was a very hard-working man. My mother didn't start work until my youngest brother, who was the baby, was 5 years old and started school.
Oh,
So
she was really a mother, a housewife mother.
my housewife, yes.
Wonderful.
Now my father, who also he went to college. My mother just went to high school and she didn't complete. She got married.
Okay.
In those days, they got married young. My parents were selected by their parents, and they were married, I guess 60-some years before my father passed. Because we gave them an anniversary dinner at their 50th anniversary.
Where did they come from?
Charleston, both of them from Charleston.
Oh, South Carolina, my place.
And her mother and some of them were from Charleston.
My mother's from Charleston.
I,
My in-laws
I
from
always say to her, I
Carolina.
hope we're not related.
Oh, I was going to say, maybe we should check back a little.
Now, your mother's name was Esther Farrar,
My
right?
mother's name was Easter May.
Easter May
Farrar.
Right.
My dad's name, my dad is Tom Farrar, and they were married close to 60 years before my mom passed. She passed away first, and then my father several years after that. And I am the oldest of 8 children. My father had 5 boys and 3 girls. And it's funny, it's interesting because his brother, the late Reverend Arthur Farrar, he had 5 girls and 3 boys. So just the opposite, but they both had 8 children. And we come from a very strong, faith-believing, religious background, church, I'll just say. I'll say it like that, I think. Yeah.
That's
He was raised Catholic, and my family, we're Pentecostal. And as a matter of fact, when he and I married, it was the first, what they would call a Eucharistic marriage ceremony that either his priest or my pastor had ever done. So it was both churches coming together, and
Are you
so
still
that
Catholic?
has worked.
I still
Officially,
attend
he is still Catholic. He is never,
But I go to the Catholic Church. I used to leave and then come to my
to
wife's
the
You
church.
were
Pentecostal
dedicated.
Yes.
You were
Yeah.
trying to do the two.
Yes,
Yeah. But he should say he used to do that even as a child, as a younger person. He would leave the Catholic Church and go to the Pentecostal church because he said he
And
liked the excitement.
Oh, okay.
When I was young, Gilmore wasn't called Gilmore.
It was
then.
called Faith Tabernacle then.
That was on Governor Street.
Oh, okay.
And my father used to do a lot of things, to feed. He had a lot of children. So he would go to work at Curtis Wright's, come home. There were apartment buildings. My father was the maintenance for those apartment buildings.
Okay.
From there, he would go over to Governor Street, and he would clean. It was a bar. I forgot the name of it. He would clean the bar, clean up around the bar for them. My father also was a barber. I had a brother that's a barber.
That's why
So-
you do so many jobs.
Yeah, he-
You're just used to seeing that role model.
So he was always busy.
Yeah.
And the building I lived in on Harrison Street was a 6-family house. And all the families were very close. Matter of fact, one of the young ladies I grew up with, Alexine, that's Tracy, Tracy Rose. I'm sure you know her if you see her, tall. She works for the county. Anyway, her sister Zini and I grew up together, and we're both still very, very close friends. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does. I'm gonna conclude this with the last question. Again, we're preparing this documentation to encourage young people in our community right now. We're seeing a lot of killing, a lot of
Yes.
young people dying, homicide on the rise. what would you do if you could? What would you suggest as a medication? I'm not going to say a cure because I don't think we can cure this anytime soon, what's going on out there. But we can treat it. What would be the best treatment?
Well, I'm hoping that these parents will get their kids into a church.
Foundation.
Will be a big help. And I hope that these pastors, these priests, can all get together, get a center to help these kids out in the city of Patterson or anywhere. It doesn't have to be Patterson. It could be Passaic. It could be out another state. But they need somewhere to go because standing on the corner is not helping them.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you jump in.
Jones?
Well, I was going to say, because of how I was raised, I certainly would say refer back to a scripture that my parents taught us when we were young. Ephesians 6:1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy mother and father, which is the first commandment with promise. If you want to have a good life, you've got to obey your parents, those who are your elders. You've got to. That is so important. They can help you to avoid many obstacles in life. They are there to protect you. You have parents for a reason. And I know every home is not perfect and every home may not have a role model, but try, if you don't have that, then try the closest thing to that. I think one of the things missing from the young generation now, they don't have hope. They don't see a future for themselves. They just don't see a way out of wherever they are.
Right.
Wherever you are today doesn't mean you're there for a lifetime. You want to do better, you can do better. You want to live better, you can live better. But it's up to you. Your success is in your hand. And I say, do everything that you can to learn as much as you can along the way. You say you want to be a nurse, you want to be a doctor. I'm going to ask a 5th grader, what are you doing today to prepare to be a nurse? It doesn't start in high school. It doesn't start in college. All along the way, you've got to begin to take life more seriously. Just more seriously. Begin to love yourself more. Respect yourself more. Work on getting a good education so that you can get yourself good employment, a good job. There's got to be role models out there. I know for me, some of my teachers, they were role models for me.
Yes.
I saw myself in them. See yourself in someone that's successful.
Right.
Find out what did they do to get to where they are. That's the kind of encouragement I think I would give. School is important. Education is important. Skills, employability skills, that's important. And I think that, I don't know how to close it out.
I think that you just gave us a wealth of information. Right now, during this COVID, a lot of the schools are closed, and the kids are on the streets, and the gangs have great access to these kids.
Yes.
This is the prevention that we need. We need community involvement. We need the village to be rebuilt, and some of those things
You know what's
mentioned.
unfortunate? I just thought about this too. My parents were not able to give me every element that my life needed in order for me to grow.
Right.
But for me, it was people who were connected to our family, people in the church, they were encouraging. There's a significant role in your community organizations, in your churches. I remember there was a woman at my church, she's gone to be with the Lord now, Mother Odessa Robinson. She would say things like, I could see that you are going to do great things in your life. My mom and my dad, they were too busy trying to put food on the table, pay the rent, to give those kinds of encouraging words. But I was blessed to have other people around me who could do that, who could feed that into me. And so that's why I think if we could get our young people back into our houses of worship, I think they are equipped to help this generation in a great way. in a
That's
great
excellent.
way.
That's excellent
In a
advice.
great way.
But I will say, in the city of Patterson, you have a good assemblyman, Benji Wimberly. Each day I send a prayer to Benji, and Benji sends me back a verse. It's always very inspiring, and he really does a lot of work with the youth in Patterson. I think that,
As the director, he really assumes the responsibility
Oh, yes,
for these
yes.
kids. And I can say I have never called him and he has not returned my call.
Never.
He gets right on it the same day, maybe the same hour. He's very attentive, but he needs help. He can't do
Can't
it
do
by
it by
himself.
himself.
He can't do it by himself. And we have to find a way to pull the parents back to the table. Even with the PTAs and the meetings with the parents, with the school board, the numbers are not there. With 26,000 plus students, you would think we'd have at least 300, 400 parents coming out at a time. It's not there.
The interest just isn't there.
It isn't there, and this is what we seek, this is what we search. How can we pull that base back together? Because it starts with the family, and you're saying that right now. You have to establish some type of ground rules in order to get them to at least follow you somewhat, your lead. Because it's difficult with the peer pressure out here that these kids experience now.
And what we don't have today also, that sense of community. If my parents, if they weren't able to attend something, I know it worked that way with many families. Perhaps another family would take on the role of looping that child in so that there would be a representative at a function, or there would be someone in the audience
Yes.
cheering a child on when they're doing a performance. Families are in crises.
Yes.
Families are in crisis. So if we don't begin to do outreach to other families,
Build that extended family.
we're going to have to. That's
aunts and uncles that
we're gonna
weren't blood
have to.
relatives,
Yeah, we're
You
going
know,
to have to.
In this town, when my daughter was in school and we would go to the PTA meetings, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, you had to get there early
To
to
get a
try to
seat.
get a seat.
Yeah,
That's how crowded it is.
that's right. My mother went
And
to every one of
yes.
those back to schools.
Now, when I was coming up, because my father worked so much, my mother would attend everything with all her children. Now, I'm talking about, see, it was 13 when I was born. It was 13. 2 had passed. So that when I mentioned it was 15 children, 2 died before I was born. So I didn't know those 2.
Right.
But my mother was involved in everything with the schools, with her children, even in high school.
Wow.
When I was in high school, my friends, several of them were quitting school. And I said, I want to quit too. And all they did was quit school, come and sit around the front of the building at Eastside High
Made
School.
no sense. It
I
made no
decided
sense.
I should do that too. But when I went to the vice principal and I said to him, I'm going to leave school, I was a senior then. No reason to quit. So
Peer pressure.
yeah, so
Following the game.
vice principal his name was Mr. Weber. He said to me, he says, well, Joe, okay, you go. He knew what would happen. He says, you go home and you have your mother sign you out. So I
Here it
said to him,
goes.
I'm 16, I can sign my own self out. He says, no, you can't. He says, you have to have your mother sign you out. Well, I knew not to go home and mention that. So I stayed, and naturally
So
you're glad
true.
you stayed at the end.
So true, so true. And it happens like that many times.
Yeah.
But thank God. Your name is often brought up when we are talking about Fifth Avenue Family Village.
Oh,
And they
yes.
always say, yeah, Mr. Jones lived out here in Fifth Avenue
Yes.
Projects too.
Matter of fact, people thought we were rich, living in the project. But
That's how they made you feel though.
But that's how they kept the project
Right.
there.
Beautiful.
Beautiful flowers all year round. Matter of fact, my mother's apartment, I'm just mentioning again, a large family. They would come from Philadelphia every year, and they would always want to video my mother's house for, to show how they would get money, the project people. But, and we lived in the project for 10 years.
Wow.
And my mother said to us, well, I think it's time for us to go. She said this was only a stepping stone.
That's what it was supposed to be, not generational.
Yes. So as we all finished school, she didn't move. She didn't stay.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Well, thank you so much for this time. We appreciate the invite to your lovely home, and we hope to talk with you again. Because I know the work is not done with you two. You continue to give and to be recognized in our community as leaders, and leaders never die. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and we wish you well with this work.
Thank you.
And I wish you edited it.
Don't worry, we'll get it. Thank you.
Okay. So you knew Larry Doby, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, matter of fact, I used to babysit for them.
You used to babysit, huh?
Oh.
Yes.
Really? Are you old enough to be a babysitter?
He lived
From
East 27th and East 27th,
Finish
7th
recording?
Avenue.
Yes, we're done. Can you take a picture of that, a still picture, just shoot it over there? And then just go once around the house?
You used to babysit him?
Just spin around?
Yeah, I used to babysit some of his kids.
I'll put this, don't worry about this
When
stuff.
they lived on 27th Street. And that we were living in the project then. And I knew his mother. He was raised on Godwin Avenue.
He was younger than
Can
you.
you pan from here
No,
around?
he was older.
And that's it.
The whole house?
We'll add
But
that.
you
No,
babysat
just this
him?
room, just pan
Larry
around.
Doby?
Oh, his children.
Oh, his children, yeah, I
Okay.
was gonna say.
No, not Larry Doby. His
You said
children.
Larry Doby, that's why.
Oh, I did?
Wait,
Yes.
wait. Teddy, let me move this over here so you could do that. Because Harold's camera's going to be in the way. Hold it.
You want to bend
I want you to get close over here on this picture.
No, it's okay. I
There
want
was a glare.
Yeah, can you have water on?
Did you see that? It was a glare when you did it. How about we do it again and turn this light out? Ooh, it's
No,
heavy. You'll have
no,
these
the
forever.
thing was there.
Yeah.
My mother said that's the problem with good furniture. You'll have it forever.